Ella stepped off the coach as dust swirled around her boots. The sun beat hard over the wooden buildings, and men spat tobacco into the street. She tightened her worn shawl and whispered, "Just one errand, then go back." No one heard her. They rarely did. Two women near the general store looked her way. One nudged the other. "There she is," the slimmer one whispered. "Poor widow can't even dress right." The other laughed. Her husband died, and she still clings to pity like a badge. Ella lowered her head and walked inside. Shelves of flour sacks and canned beans lined the walls. She placed a few coins on the counter and murmured, "I need soap and salt." The shopkeeper barely looked at her. "Salt's gone. Try later." Behind her, the women strolled in, voices high and sharp. "Maybe she ate all the salt herself," one said loudly. Ella stiffened. "Please, I'll just take the soap." The first woman stepped close. "Why don't you go home? Your in-laws don't want you around town." Ella swallowed, voice trembling. "They sent me." "Of course they did," the woman smirked. "Someone has to run their errands." Outside, a sheriff leaned on a post. Ella glanced toward him, hoping for a word, a look, anything. But he only spat and stared at the passing horses. She stepped outside with her small purchase pressed to her chest. "Look at her walk," one of the women called after her. "Like she thinks she matters." Ella kept walking, boots scraping against the boards. She whispered, "Just keep moving." The street smelled of hay, smoke, and judgment. At the end of town awaited a large house, her late husband's family home. It towered over smaller buildings as if it ruled them too. She approached the porch, clutching her bundle tighter. Inside, her mother-in-law's voice echoed. She took forever just to fetch soap. Ella hesitated by the kitchen door. "I am back." The older woman turned. "You speak when spoken to. Now set the table. We have guests tonight." Ella set plates carefully, her hands shaking. Her sister-in-law strutted in wearing a bright, expensive dress. "You'll serve tea tonight," she said sweetly, though her eyes burned cold. "Don't spill it in front of people again." Ella kept her voice small. "Yes." A group of businessmen entered the parlor, laughing loud. Her brother-in-law grinned cruelly. "Let her pour. Folks need entertainment." Ella steadied her breath. She knew what came next. "Did you hear?" her sister-in-law whispered to a guest. "She still thinks she belongs here. Bless her heart." Another smirked. "A stray dog has more backbone." Ella poured tea, careful not to tremble. Their laughter sliced like wind. One man leaned in close. "Your husband left you nothing, you know. They keep you out of pity." Ella's throat tightened. Her mother-in-law chimed. "She should be grateful we house her at all." "Most wouldn't." Ella whispered, "I know." They laughed again, satisfied that she bowed. Later, as she washed cups in the dim kitchen, she heard voices drifting from the parlor. "Annual company celebration," her brother-in-law boasted. "We'll show the town who holds power." His wife replied, "We'll make her serve again. People love a spectacle." Her mother-in-law added, "She'll pour tea like the maid she belongs to. Then maybe she'll stop thinking she deserves Heir." Ella froze. Her breath caught. She gripped the sink harder until her knuckles whitened. She sank onto a stool, whispering, "They will never stop." The back door swung open as a ranch hand entered, dust on his coat. He paused. "You all right, miss?" Ella wiped her eyes. "Yes. Thank you." "They treat you rough," he muttered. "It is fine." "No, it ain't." He nodded toward the hall. "Just thought someone should say that." Ella nodded weakly. "Thank you." He tipped his hat and left. His simple kindness stung more than insults. She didn't know how to accept it. Later, she stepped outside for air. Night fell, lanterns glowing faintly along the porch. A horse snorted from its post. She whispered, "I wish someone would take me away." From the window, her sister-in-law's voice cut through the night. "Make sure you look presentable for the party. People like their help neat." Ella turned back inside, shoulders hunched but eyes darker. "Yes." In her small upstairs room, she sat on the edge of the bed, clutching her shawl. The faded fabric smelled of dust and old tears. She whispered, "I will survive the night, then survive the next one." Footsteps passed her door. Her mother-in-law's voice carried, sharp and confident. "If she refuses to serve, we cut off her allowance and throw her out." Ella closed her eyes. That was the truth. She had nowhere else to go. She had no land, no money, no place that wanted her. But as wind rattled the shutters, something faint stirred in her. Fear, yes, but also a thin spark of stubbornness. "She must attend the party," the older woman said. "She needs to know her place." Ella whispered into darkness, "I know my place." Yet her voice wavered, as if arguing with itself. She lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the town carried on, boots stomping, laughter rising, lanterns swinging in the wind. Tomorrow they would laugh again, and she would stand with a tray in her hands while they whispered about her behind painted smiles. But tonight, she let herself cry quietly, knowing no one would knock, no one would come for her. Morning would come, and she would walk into that grand room again. She rolled to her side and wiped her face. "I will go," she whispered, "because I must." She had no idea that everything would change there, or that someone unexpected would be watching, carrying a silent kindness she had never known. But for tonight, she trembled alone, the girl nobody wanted, preparing to serve a town that would rather see her crawl. The mansion lights glowed across the dusty road as Ella walked up the steps, clutching her faded dress. Lanterns swung in the wind, and voices echoed inside, sharp and full of judgment. Her sister-in-law met her at the door. "Try not to embarrass us tonight," she whispered. Ella bowed her head. "Yes." Guests in polished boots and silk dresses turned to stare. One woman murmured, "Why is she here?" Her mother-in-law forced a smile. "She helped serve. Someone has to." Ella stepped through the crowd with a tray of cups. A man sniffed. "She looks like a stray wandering in." Her hands trembled as she poured. "Tea, sir?" He ignored her. Laughter rippled from a nearby table where her in-laws sat. "Look at her posture," her sister-in-law giggled. "Even a mule walks straighter." Ella whispered, "I am sorry," though she didn't know why. Her brother-in-law leaned back loudly.
"Dead weight."
"That is all she is." Ella's cheeks burned. "Would you like more tea?" He sneered. "No one wants anything from you except distance." Across the room, a quiet cowboy sat alone, Caleb. His coat dusted from the ride, his boots worn but polished. His gaze followed her movements, steady, unreadable. Ella turned, tray shaking. Her mother-in-law's voice cut through the air. "Smile, dear. People are watching." Ella forced a smile. "Yes." She approached a table of businessmen. "Tea." A guest waved a hand. "Just set it down and go." Her sister-in-law brushed past her. "You spill anything tonight, and you sleep in the shed." Ella swallowed. "I won't." The scent of cigars and roast meat filled the hall. Music chimed faintly from the piano as guests laughed and traded gossip. Ella moved through them like smoke, present but unseen. She poured tea for an older rancher. He glanced at her shaking hands. "Hard night?" he asked softly. Ella nodded. "A little." Before she could step away, her brother-in-law barked, "Ella, you are moving too slow." The tray jolted. Tea spilled over a guest's sleeve. Gasp spread. Her brother-in-law stood, face red. "Useless," he shouted. "Can't pour a drink without ruining things." Ella froze. "I am sorry." "Sorry does nothing," he snapped. "You are dead weight. You hear me? Dead weight." Laughter flickered among guests, awkward but entertained. Ella bowed her head, eyes burning. In the corner, Caleb rose slightly, watching the cruelty unfold. Ella whispered, "I will clean it." "No," her sister-in-law hissed. "Just go serve somewhere they cannot see you." Ella backed away, fighting tears. Caleb's voice reached her, low and steady. "You do not deserve that." She paused, surprised he spoke. Her voice cracked. "Thank you." He nodded once. Folks forget their manners when they feel big. Ella looked down. I try not to be in the way. Being alive doesn't make you in the way, he answered. Her mother-in-law hurried over. Do not talk with guests. You are here to serve. Ella whispered, yes. Caleb's eyes narrowed, but he stayed silent as she moved on. In the center of the hall, her brother-in-law raised a toast. To our great company, fortune, power, and leadership. Ella knew her husband built that company, but she had never been allowed to claim anything. A guest asked her mother-in-law, do you hold controlling shares? We do, she replied. Ella was left nothing, naturally. Caleb glanced toward the door as it opened. A tall lawyer entered, briefcase in hand. The room shifted with curiosity. Her mother-in-law welcomed him grandly. Mr. Hawthorne, we have everything ready for your announcement. The lawyer cleared his throat. I was asked to review the mining deeds before tonight. Ella stopped where she stood. The lawyer continued. The deed and company rights were left entirely to the widow, Ella Preston. Silence thundered. Faces froze pale. Her sister-in-law whispered, that is impossible. Her brother-in-law blurted, she is incompetent. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Her late husband signed these papers himself. Everything belongs to her. Ella shook her head faintly. Me? Caleb sat forward. Her mother-in-law hissed through clenched teeth. You must be mistaken. I am not, the lawyer replied. She owns the mansion, the mines, and all company shares. People stared at Ella as if seeing her for the first time. Caleb rose slowly, eyes warm. Ella's brother-in-law lunged toward the table. This cannot be true. The lawyer held up the seal. The court has verified it. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, she was treated like a servant all this time. Ella backed away until her shoulder touched the wall. I did not know, she whispered. Her mother-in-law tried to smile. Ella, darling, we should talk in private. Ella's voice trembled. You said I had nothing. The woman stiffened. We were protecting you. Caleb stepped closer. From what? Respect. The family glared at him, but he didn't move. Ella whispered, I need air. The lawyer nodded gently. We can speak tomorrow, Mrs. Preston. She stumbled toward the door. Caleb followed, calm and unhurried. Outside, the night was cool and quiet. The lantern flickered. Ella pressed a hand to her chest. They lied. Caleb spoke softly. Yes. What do I do now? He looked toward his horse. First, you leave this place. I have nowhere, she whispered. You do, Caleb said.
Come.
I will take you somewhere safe. Ella looked back at the windows glowing with false laughter. Caleb offered his hand, not as a command but an invitation. You shouldn't walk alone tonight. Ella hesitated, then nodded. He led her to his horse. You ride with me. She climbed slowly, dress catching on the saddle. Caleb settled behind her, reins steady. Hold on. As the mansion shrank behind them, Ella whispered, Thank you. Caleb answered, You're welcome. For the first time in her life, someone meant it. Caleb held the reins steady as he waited by the dusty street. Horses shifted and stamped their hooves. Townsfolk whispered, leaning from wooden porches. Ella's hands shook around her small bag. I don't know where to go, she said softly. You do not deserve what they did, Caleb said, voice low but certain. I feel useless, she whispered. Her gaze fell to the ground. Dust swirled around her boots. A man spat and muttered. She thinks she owns something now. Ella flinched, stepping back. Caleb's hand rested briefly on her shoulder. Ignore them. They hate me, she said, voice trembling. They always did. They speak from fear, not truth, Caleb said. Their words are empty. Ella's eyes met his for a moment. Empty but sharp. He nodded once. I know. The horse whinnied. Caleb gestured. Climb up. I'll take you somewhere safe. Her fingers brushed the leather saddle as she mounted. Caleb adjusted the reins. Hold on tight. She nodded, jaw tight, eyes watering. Wind tugged at her faded shawl, and the lantern dangling from the saddle flickered. Its light caught the edges of the road and the empty horizon beyond. Where are we going? She asked quietly. To my ranch, Caleb replied. You can rest there. Help if you wish. No one will judge. I don't deserve kindness, she said, voice barely audible. Deserve it or not, it is yours to accept, he said. The horse shifted forward, hooves clopping against packed dirt. Dust rose in clouds behind them. A dog barked from a yard. Lanterns swung in porches along the road. Voices faded into the night, leaving only the wind and the creak of the saddle. Ella pressed her hands to her lap. I feel exposed, she said. You are exposed because they tried to make you small, Caleb said. But you are not small. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She wiped them on the back of her hand. I have nowhere to hide, she whispered. You have a place now, Caleb said. A quiet place. Space to breathe. The town fell behind, shadows stretching long over wooden fences and empty streets. Crickets hummed faintly, and the smell of hay and smoke drifted from a distant barn. I keep thinking maybe I should just leave, Ella said, voice trembling. Go somewhere no one knows me. You could, Caleb said softly, but you won't have to. Not if you trust a little. I don't know if I can, she admitted. Start small, he said. One step, one day. She nodded, tightening her grip on the edge of the saddle. I never thought anyone would care, she said, voice breaking. I care, Caleb said quietly. And I will not let them hurt you. The land opened before them, vast and lonely. Hills rolled under moonlight, and the wind tugged at her shawl again. Lantern light flickered over the road, creating pools of warmth in the cool night. I feel like I'm leaving everything behind, she said. You are leaving cruelty behind, Caleb said. That is all. Ella's head bowed. I am not used to being treated kindly, she said. You will learn, he said, step by step. The horse cantered along the dirt road. Ella's heart thumped in time with its hooves. The night was quiet, except for the distant creak of a barn door swinging in the wind. I feel unworthy, she admitted. I shouldn't even be here. You are here, Caleb said, voice calm. And that is enough. For tonight. At least, it must be enough. She swallowed and nodded, listening to the rhythmic clop of hooves. Dust hung in the air, glowing faintly in the lantern light. The wind shook the trees, brushing against her shawl. I don't know if I can trust this or you, she said, voice quiet but honest. You don't have to decide now, Caleb said. Just follow. See where it leads. Ella's lips pressed into a thin line. She let the reins slip from her fingers and rested her hands lightly on the horse's mane. All right, she whispered. Caleb glanced at her over his shoulder. Good. That is the first step. The town disappeared behind them. Lanterns swung faintly in windows as the road stretched into darkness. Horses' hooves clopped steadily. The wind whispered through open plains. Ella shivered, not from cold, but from the strange relief of someone believing in her. Caleb's voice came quietly, almost a murmur. You are not alone tonight. Ella exhaled slowly, clutching her shawl against the wind. Then, I'll go with you. The horse moved forward into the wide, empty night. Lantern light flickered. Shadows danced across hills and fences. Ella leaned slightly forward, following the rhythm of hooves. She did not speak again, but the tightness in her chest loosened just a fraction. She followed him, unsure if she was walking into safety or another trap, but for the first time, she felt a spark of hope flicker in the darkness. Caleb led Ella across the quiet ranch. Horses stamped hooves in stalls. Chickens clucked near the barn doors. Lanterns swayed from posts, casting soft light over wooden fences. You can stay in the small room upstairs, Caleb said. It's yours. Ella's hands tightened on her bag. You don't mind? He shook his head. No one should treat you as they did. This is yours to rest. She glanced at the barn hands. They tipped hats and nodded. Even them, she asked. They are good people, Caleb said. They will respect you. Ella hesitated. I don't want to trouble anyone. You won't, he said. Help if you wish. Or just rest. Upstairs, she unpacked quietly. The bed smelled faintly of straw and dust. She smoothed the blankets and whispered, "It feels safe." A knock came. "Miss Ella?" She opened the door. Mrs. Ruth, the cook, held a steaming bowl.
"Stew."
"Eat before it cools." Ella hesitated.
I
"I don't want to impose." "Everyone is broken in their own way," Mrs. Ruth said softly. "A warm meal doesn't hurt anyone." Ella nodded and followed her down to the kitchen. The smell of roasted vegetables and broth filled the room. A fire crackled in the hearth. "Sit," Mrs. Ruth said. "Don't rush." Ella's hands shook as she took the bowl. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Mrs. Ruth said. "You'll find things are quieter here. That helps." Ella glanced around. The room was modest, lanterns glowing, wood warm beneath her fingers. "Quieter than the town," she said softly. "Yes," Mrs. Ruth said. "Quiet lets people hear themselves." Ella took a careful spoonful of stew. "It tastes good." Mrs. Ruth smiled. "Then it's doing its job." Over the next days, Ella moved through the ranch slowly. She fed horses and chickens, brushed their coats, and swept barn floors. Caleb worked nearby, silent, sometimes glancing at her over his shoulder. One evening, she held a torn edge of her shawl. Caleb noticed. Without a word, he knelt and stitched the fabric carefully. His hands were steady, fingers precise. Ella watched from the doorway, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Why help me?" He looked up briefly. "Because it needs fixing. Nothing more." She frowned. "I've never had anyone just fix something for me." He returned to the fence, checking the horses. Some people measure kindness by return. Others simply do it. Ella's lips pressed together, uncertain. The wind stirred outside, rattling the barn door. Lantern light cast shadows over the hay. At night, she lay in her room, hands folded. "I wonder if anyone ever cared like this before," she whispered to the darkness. Days passed quietly. Caleb spoke little, only instructions for chores or the occasional comment about a horse's health. Ella worked in silence, feeling the tight knot in her chest loosen gradually. One afternoon, she overheard ranch hands talking outside the barn. "Did you hear? Ella's freeloading at Caleb's ranch," one said. "She doesn't belong here," another added. Ella's stomach nodded, but she said nothing. She returned to sweeping the floor, letting the wind shake her hair. Caleb appeared at the doorway. "They talk," he said simply. Ella shook her head. I cannot stop them." "No," Caleb admitted. "But you can choose to stay in the light where their words do not reach you." Ella exhaled slowly. "It feels strange, not to be chased by them." "You deserve that," Caleb said quietly. She lowered her gaze. "I don't know how to accept it." "You will learn," he said, voice calm as the horses shuffled in their stalls. "One day at a time." That evening, she carried buckets of water to the barn. Caleb followed, checking gates. Lanterns glowed orange against the darkening sky. Ella's hands were raw, but her shoulders were straighter. "You've done well today," Caleb said, glancing at her. "Did I?" she asked softly, unsure. "Yes," he said. "You helped the animals. You kept yourself steady. That counts." She looked at him, blinking against the fading light. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need," he replied, moving toward the barn door. "You are earning it yourself." Ella lingered a moment, watching the shadows stretch across the yard. She realized she could breathe without fear. The sound of the wind, the lanterns, and the soft cluck of hens reminded her that life could feel gentle, even if briefly. Later, she closed her eyes in the small room. Her shawl, now mended, rested across her lap. She whispered, "Perhaps this is a place to breathe." A sudden noise from the gate startled her. She rose, hands gripping the bedpost. Voices, harsh and demanding, carried across the yard. Her heart raced. They are here," she whispered. Caleb appeared behind her, calm, steady. "Yes," he said. "They want control. We will see what they intend." Ella swallowed, shoulders tense. I am not ready." "You will be," Caleb said softly. "We face it together." Outside, Lanterns flickered in the approaching dusk. The sound of hooves clattered across the yard. Her in-laws had arrived. Ella gripped the shawl against her chest. She took a trembling breath and whispered, "Then, I must face them." Caleb's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. "You are not alone." She nodded, heart pounding, unsure if this quiet sanctuary would hold against the storm to come. Dust swirled as horses stamped outside the ranch gate. Ella's hands shook as she watched 3 figures approach on horseback, their shadows long in the lantern light. "Ella," her mother-in-law shouted, voice sharp, riding forward. "Sign those papers. Give up what is not yours." Caleb stepped in front of her. "They will not enter," he said calmly, eyes steady on the riders. Her sister-in-law leaned from her saddle, lips curled. "Do you hear? You've stolen what belonged to us." Ella's knees trembled. I cannot, her mother-in-law barked. "You are nothing. Your body, your manners, your uselessness, your husband's shame lives in you." Tears blurred Ella's vision. She pressed her hands to her chest. "Please don't." Caleb's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. "Enough," he said, voice firm. "Leave. Now." Her brother-in-law spat onto the ground. "You have no right to speak to us like that. You have no right to harm her," Caleb said quietly. "Turn your horses and leave." Her mother-in-law laughed, sharp and bitter. "She is weak. You protect her for nothing." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "Protection is not weakness. It is responsibility." Ella blinked against the tears. Her lips quivered. I've never. You've never had someone stand for you," Caleb said softly. "That does not make you small." The riders hesitated. One muttered, "He can't stop us." Caleb's stance did not change. "I am not stopping anyone. I am standing where truth is needed." Ella's hands shook less, though tears still fell. Her mother-in-law spat insults one last time. "We will return. And you will regret this." "You will leave," Caleb said calmly. "And when you do, remember that cruelty is powerless when faced with steadiness." The horses turned. Dust rose behind them as they rode back toward town. Silence settled over the ranch. Ella sank onto a bench, shoulders shaking. I didn't think anyone would defend me," she whispered. Caleb crouched to her level, voice gentle. "You are not weak. They are scared. Their words cannot touch you." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "But they always have." "And you've survived," he said. "That is what matters." Outside, a foal stumbled near the barn fence. Its small leg was bent awkwardly. Ella's eyes softened. "Poor thing," she whispered. Caleb approached. "Do you want to help?" I don't know if I can," she said, voice uncertain. "You can," he said, just gently. Ella knelt beside the foal, her hands trembling as she brushed dirt from its coat. "Easy, easy now," she murmured. The foal whinnied, and her fingers grazed its soft neck. Caleb knelt nearby, steadying its mother. "Careful, that's it. You are helping, not forcing." I can do this," Ella whispered, focusing on the small creature instead of her own fears. She wrapped a soft cloth around the foal's leg, Caleb guiding her hands without words. "That's it," he said quietly. "You have patience." The foal relaxed, leaning into her touch. Ella's lips curved into the first small smile in days. "You see?" Caleb said softly. "Gentleness is strength too." Ella exhaled slowly. "I never thought I could do anything right." "You are learning," Caleb said. "And that is enough for now." A lantern swung gently in the barn, casting warm light over her careful hands. Dust motes floated in the beams like tiny sparks. She stood, brushing hay from her dress. I like this," she said quietly. "Helping, I mean." Caleb nodded. "Then do it. One day at a time." The foal nuzzled her hand. She laughed softly, a sound light and strange to her own ears. "Hello there, little one," she murmured. "You are doing well," Caleb said, voice calm and proud. Outside, shadows shifted. Town gossip would already be spreading, whispers about Caleb and her ownership. But for now, In this quiet corner of the ranch, the fear and cruelty of the town felt distant. Ella leaned against the barn wall, taking a deep breath. I think I can stay here, she said. You can, Caleb said. And you will. You have earned it. The foal trotted a few steps, wobbling but free. Ella followed, guiding it gently. She felt the warmth of the barn light on her face and the steady presence of Caleb nearby. For the first time, she realized she could do something right, gently, kindly, without fear. Her hands, once trembling, were steady now. Her heart, though still fragile, beat with small courage. Caleb watched her silently. You are stronger than you believe, he said softly. Ella turned to him, eyes wide. I hope so. You will see, he said, step by step. The wind blew softly across the ranch, ruffling her hair and shawl. Lanterns swung, casting long, dancing shadows. Dust from the barn floor drifted in golden shafts. Ella knelt again beside the foal, brushing its coat with careful hands. I can do this, she whispered. I can. Caleb nodded behind her. Yes, you can. And as the night stretched over the quiet ranch, a distant murmur of town gossip floated across the plains. Someone was already saying Caleb was trying to take her company. Ella did not hear it. She did not care. For the first time, she felt the soft stirrings of her own strength, small, gentle, and hers alone. Dust swirled across the barnyard as Ella carried a bucket of water. Voices drifted from behind the barn. They say Caleb's trying to take over her company, one ranch hand muttered. She's barely known how to hold a shovel, and now he protects her, another added. Ella froze. Her hands tightened around the bucket. He'll regret helping me, she whispered. Caleb appeared from the stable, adjusting a horse's bridle. What are you worrying about? He asked quietly. The talk, she said. They'll say you're foolish to protect me. Caleb's eyes met hers. Others' talk does not make truth, he said softly. They will say what they want, but it does not change what is right. Ella lowered her gaze. I do not deserve this. Their kindness, your protection. You do, he said firmly. You just have to accept it. He led her to a bay horse tied near the fence. Today, I will teach you to ride properly, step by step. Ella swallowed and approached. I've never ridden much alone. Then we will start slow, Caleb said, steadying the saddle. Hands here, shoulders straight, eyes ahead. She mounted awkwardly. Caleb adjusted her posture with gentle guidance. Relax. You are holding too tightly. I'm afraid, she whispered, heart thumping. That is natural, he said. Fear shows you care. But courage is acting anyway. She exhaled and let the reins rest loosely in her hands. Like this. Yes, Caleb said. Keep your back straight. Feel the horse beneath you, not above you. The horse shifted, soft hooves pressing into the dirt. Ella's hands loosened. She felt the gentle sway, the rhythm of movement. You're doing well, Caleb said quietly. Look ahead, not at the ground. Her shoulders eased. I can do this, she murmured. You can, he said. One step, one ride. Later, as they dismounted, Caleb's niece and nephew appeared, running across the yard. Their boots kicked up dust, and their laughter rang like tiny bells. Miss Ella, the little girl called, throwing herself into Ella's arms. Ella's lips curved. Hello, little one, she said, holding her carefully. The boy followed, hugging her knees. We like it when you're here, he said. Ella's heart warmed. You do? She asked softly. Yes, the girl said. You help the horses and the chickens. You make stew with Mrs. Ruth. Her chest tightened. I don't want to lose your kindness, she whispered. You won't, Caleb said, kneeling beside her. They won't take that away. Ella's eyes welled. She hugged the children again. Thank you, she whispered. Caleb watched quietly, a gentle smile playing on his lips. See? Caring is its own reward, he said. The children ran off toward the barn, their laughter fading into the evening. Ella exhaled, brushing a tear from her cheek. I wish it could always be this peaceful, she said. It can be, Caleb said softly. If you let it. If you do not let their voices reach you. Ella nodded, tightening the shawl around her shoulders. I try. I really do. A distant sound of hooves drew her attention. The sheriff rode up the dusty road, boots clattering against the fence gate. Ella Preston, he called. You must attend the town assembly. Company matters cannot wait. Ella's stomach nodded. I'm not ready, she whispered. You will be, Caleb said quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. You will not go alone. I will be there. The sheriff dismounted. The townsfolk expect you, he said. It is your duty now. Ella's gaze dropped to the ground. I fear them, she admitted. Caleb's eyes softened. Fear is natural, but courage is standing anyway. And you are not alone this time. She nodded, swallowing hard. I will try. The wind stirred across the ranch. Lanterns glowed in the barn, casting long shadows. Chickens clucked softly. Horses shifted in their stalls. The evening sky stretched wide, painted in dusky orange and violet. Ella practiced holding the reins, imagining herself riding into the assembly. Her hands were steady now, shoulders straight. She felt the rhythm of the horse beneath her. You are learning, Caleb said. Every step you take, every day you rise, shows strength. I hope it is enough, Ella whispered. It is, he said. Do not doubt it. One day at a time. She closed her eyes briefly, feeling the warm wind against her face, the steady presence of Caleb at her side, the distant laughter of children. A soft spark of hope grew, fragile but real. I will go, she whispered, finally lifting her head. Caleb smiled faintly. Good. You will not be alone. Remember that. Ella exhaled, hands resting lightly on the saddle. She felt the first stirrings of courage, her heart softening after days of quiet work and gentle care. The sheriff nudged his horse. We should leave soon, he said. Ella nodded, voice steadying. I am ready. I am not alone. Caleb placed a firm hand on her back. Exactly. That is what matters. Dust rose as they rode toward the road. Lantern light flickered across fences and barns, wind stirring her shawl. She followed Caleb, a quiet resolve in her chest, the children's laughter and the ranch's gentle rhythms still in her mind. Town gossip would reach them soon, whispers of Caleb helping her, perhaps even claiming her company. But for now, the quiet strength in her chest outweighed fear. Ella rode forward, heart trembling but upright, not alone, ready to face the town again. The courthouse door creaked as Ella stepped inside, boots tapping softly on the worn wooden floor. Dust clung to the edges of lantern light, and the late afternoon sun slanted through tall windows, casting long shadows over benches. Ranchers, shopkeepers, and townsfolk turned their heads, murmurs rising like restless wind. Caleb walked behind her, shoulders straight, hands relaxed at his sides. He did not lead her, but his presence was a shield. Her mother-in-law rose from the front bench, lips curled in contempt. Ella, you have no business here. You are unstable, unfit, and unworthy of the papers. Her sister-in-law added, voice sharp, you are incapable of managing anything. You've always been useless. Ella's hands trembled at her sides. Her throat felt tight. She opened her mouth, trying to speak, but only a whisper escaped. Caleb stepped forward slightly, eyes calm but steady. Everyone here, he said, voice carrying, must remember that words cannot erase truth. Ella has rights. They are not yours to ignore. A few townsfolk shifted, uncomfortable at the quiet force in his tone. You speak for her as if she were a child, her mother-in-law snapped, voice rising. She is not capable. Her husband's poor decisions, all her fault. Ella's knees felt weak, and she gripped the edge of the bench. Dust motes swirled in a beam of lantern light. Her lips trembled. You do not have to prove your worth to those who would belittle you, Caleb said, voice firm. You are capable. You see people clearly. That is what matters. The lawyer stepped forward, papers in hand, voice clear and even. The late Mr. Preston left all ownership of the mining company to Ella. The documents are valid and binding. She is the rightful owner and the one in charge of all decisions. A hush fell over the room. Ranchers' eyes widened. Shopkeepers leaned forward. Even Caleb's niece and nephew peered from the back, wide-eyed and silent. Her mother-in-law's face flushed crimson. "Lies," she shouted, pounding her fist on the bench. "These papers, this is trickery. I demand." Caleb's hand rose, stopping her mid-sentence. "There is no trickery. There is truth. You will not harm her with words or threats. Step back." The mother-in-law's mouth opened and closed. Her sister-in-law's eyes darted nervously. The father-in-law sat stiff, hands clenching the bench. The room held its breath. Ella blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Her heart raced, but she felt a strange calm settle over her shoulders. Caleb's steady presence grounded her. You cannot," her mother-in-law yelled, voice breaking. "You have no idea what you're doing. I raised that man. You." Caleb's voice grew louder, echoing across the courthouse. "Enough. Your words have power only if you are willing to give it to them. She is not a child. She is the owner. She is strong. And you," he pointed gently but firmly, "are powerless against what is right." Ella felt her hands unclench. She inhaled, letting the words sink in. Caleb had spoken her truth aloud when she could not. The lawyer stepped closer to the bench. "Ella Preston's ownership is complete. Decisions must be respected. No one may challenge them without cause." A silence stretched. The air felt heavy with dust and tension. Her mother-in-law trembled, rage twisting her features. Then her shoulders sagged. Tears began to streak down her cheeks. You, she stammered, voice cracking. How could this be?" Her sister-in-law pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes wide, while the father-in-law lowered his gaze. The power they had wielded for years evaporated in the face of undeniable truth. Ella watched quietly, her heart heavy. She did not feel triumph. She felt sorrow for the woman broken by her own anger, the family that had thrived on cruelty now left naked before the law and the townspeople. Caleb's hand brushed lightly against her back. "It is not your burden to celebrate their defeat," he said softly. "Let compassion guide you, even now." Ella nodded, swallowing hard. I understand," she whispered. The room remained silent for a moment. Ranchers exchanged glances, some murmuring quietly to each other, others nodding in respect. Dust motes drifted lazily through the sunbeams, lanterns swaying softly. "Ella," Caleb said, his voice steady but gentle, "you may speak if you wish." Her throat felt tight, but she lifted her chin. I do not seek to harm anyone," she said. "I wish only to honor the responsibility given to me. I will manage the company fairly and with care for those who work honestly." A murmur of approval rose among the townsfolk. Some nodded, others whispered to neighbors. Her mother-in-law sank into the bench, trembling. You do not know what you have," she said, voice small and broken. "You will see," Ella said quietly, not with malice but with firmness. "And I hope you learn that cruelty never builds strength. Only truth and patience do." Caleb's eyes met hers, and he gave a small nod. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had spoken, and she had been heard. She had not shouted, threatened, or mocked. She had claimed her place with dignity. The townspeople remained seated, watching her. Some shifted in discomfort, others with quiet respect. The air hung heavy, warm with sunlight and dust. Boots tapped softly on wooden floors, the faint creak of benches audible. Her mother-in-law buried her face in her hands, shaking. Power had left her. Rage dissolved into tears, and with it, the last barrier between Ella and the recognition she had long been denied. Ella exhaled slowly. She felt more sadness than triumph, pity for the broken pride before her, and relief that Caleb had stood with her. "You see," Caleb whispered softly, "even in judgment, you remain humane." Ella nodded, her lips trembling. I feel sorrow, not joy. Good, Caleb said quietly. That is strength. That is wisdom. You are not small, even when others fall. The sheriff watched silently from the back, boots tapping softly against the floor. A few ranchers shifted, clearing their throats. The courthouse was still, the late sun casting a final glow across wooden beams and dusty floors. Ella took a slow breath. She had faced the town. She had been judged. And now she stood with her rights, her dignity intact, her heart gentle. The town waited, whispers rising. Eyes turned toward her, expecting her next move. She glanced at Caleb, shoulders steady, expression calm. She was no longer alone. Ella lifted her chin slightly, meeting the room's gaze. I will do what is right, she said softly, voice steady. And I will not forget what I have learned today. Caleb's hand brushed hers briefly. And you'll have guidance, not fear, he said. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight, lanterns swinging faintly. Boots tapped softly. The courthouse, once a place of judgment, held a new quiet, respect, tension, and the subtle weight of justice finally fulfilled. The town waited to see how Ella would use her power. And for the first time, she felt the stirrings of resolve. Ella rode back to the ranch under a sky streaked with gold and violet. Dust swirled around her boots as the horses' hooves pressed into the dirt road. The wind tugged gently at her shawl, and for the first time, she held her chin high, shoulders steady. Caleb met her at the gate, leaning against the fence, eyes calm. You returned, he said softly. I did, she replied, voice quiet but sure. I had to see that it was done right. You have carried this well, he said. The workers have been paid fairly. The ranch hands, the miners, they know you are just. Ella dismounted, hands gripping the reins. I chose you as overseer, she said. You'll help guide them, but I will check on the work myself. Caleb nodded, lips pressing into a small smile. That is fair. And they will respect you, as they should. She watched him for a moment. Not just for defending me, Caleb, for believing I was worth protecting, she said softly. He tilted his head slightly. That was never in question. Inside the ranch, workers approached cautiously. Miss Ella, one said, voice low, thank you for the wages. It means more than we can say. Ella nodded. Do your work well, she said, and treat the land kindly. That is enough for me. The men and women bowed slightly before returning to the barns and stables. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the fence posts and chicken coops. Dust floated lazily in the beams of lantern light. Later, Ella walked through town. Wooden porches creaked underfoot. Horse stalls lined the streets, and a few cowboys spat into the dust, eyes flicking her way. Ella, a shopkeeper, murmured, I'm sorry for what was said before. She nodded briefly, voice even. Thank you. That will do. A mother pushed her child closer. That lady, she runs things fair. We'll remember that. Ella's lips curved slightly, but she did not rush to forgive. Her shame had loosened, but the memory of years of mockery lingered in the back of her mind. She kept walking, head held high, feeling the wind tug at her dress, the sun warming her face, the weight of dignity settling onto her shoulders like a soft shawl. Back at the ranch, Caleb watched her approach the gate. His eyes followed her every step, a quiet pride in the way she carried herself. You did well, he said, voice low as she dismounted again. I did what I had to, she said. But thank you for standing with me, for protecting me when I could not protect myself. You always had the strength, he said. I only reminded you of it. She breathed deeply, letting the scent of hay, dust, and the warm evening air fill her lungs. I feel like I belong here, finally. Safe. Not because I have power, but because someone showed me kindness. That I matter. Caleb's eyes softened. Kindness is stronger than power. You have learned that well. That night, she stood at the porch of her room, looking toward Caleb's cabin. The lantern glowed warmly, flickering against the darkened landscape. Horses shifted in the stables, and the wind whispered through the fence posts. She thought of the workers, of the town, of her mother-in-law and sister-in-law now stripped of control. She did not feel triumph. She felt calm, a slow, steady warmth spreading through her chest. "You have come far," Caleb said from the gate, voice quiet but clear. Ella turned to him, eyes glistening. "And I will keep going," she said. "Step by step, I will do what is right. For them, for the land, for myself." "You already have," he said, nodding. "The rest will follow." She walked slowly toward the barn, letting her fingers brush the rough wood of the fence. Dust floated in the lantern light, catching like tiny sparks. She smiled softly, remembering the children's laughter, the gentle hands guiding the foal, the quiet words Caleb had spoken all these days. "You taught me something," she said softly. "That kindness, it is not weakness. It is strength." "And you have it," Caleb said quietly. "Do not forget that." Ella exhaled, letting the tension in her shoulders fall. The land stretched wide, calm under the stars that began to appear in the evening sky. She felt the warmth of the lantern on Caleb's porch, a beacon of steady light, and she knew that here, finally, she had a place to breathe. She turned toward the ranch house, shadows stretching across the dust. "I will honor it," she whispered. "I will do what is right." Caleb nodded once, stepping back into the lantern glow. "And that is enough," he said. Ella looked back at him, a faint smile lifting her lips. "Thank you. For everything. Not just for defending me, but for believing I was worth protecting." "You always were," he said. "You just had to see it for yourself." She stepped into the barnyard, soft sounds of animals and dust underfoot. Lanterns swung gently in the breeze. The land felt alive, safe and waiting. For the first time, she walked with a quiet dignity that did not tremble at whispers or laughter. She had hope, belonging, and the strength that came from gentle guidance and unwavering kindness. Ella breathed deeply, letting the warm lantern light wash over her. Her head held high, heart steady. She realized that she had claimed not just the company, but her own place in the world. And the land, the horses, the quiet ranch, and Caleb's unwavering presence reminded her that she mattered, not through power, but through the quiet victories of kindness, patience, and courage. Dust rose softly as the night settled, lantern light flickering against the porch. Ella felt her first true sense of home. She had arrived at a quiet victory.